Welcome back, everybody, to the South Endzone. I am Chad. You see Tyler right there. We are not enjoying this part of the year as much as we should be, at least as much as we think we should be. It's bowl season. It's college football playoff season. Tyler, let's first jump right into the one that everybody's talking about, the college football playoff, because it's a little ways away. We still have a week and a half until we actually get to see these first round playoff games. Michigan, Alabama. What are you thinking? What are you thinking there? And then we'll get into Washington and Texas in just a minute. I was looking at some stats. There's quite a few interesting stats there, and Michigan has been dominating defensively in so many categories this year. I'm not sure what that means though, because I don't know how much you can count the competition against them when it comes to those numbers. But they did they did their thing against Ohio State, and that's a pretty potent offense. Although I think Jeremiah and Drew would probably agree. That's our two resident Ohio State homers. They would agree that quarterback play may have played a role in that, and that Ohio State's offense may not be the juggernaut that it looks on paper when they're playing some lesser competition. But the other stat that I saw was, and then Alabama is like kind of a good to middle of the road defense, depending on what stat you look at, but nowhere near as dominant as Michigan's defense has been.
No, their run defense is going to be their Achilles heel.
Right. But then I was looking at another stat, and it's like Jim Harbaugh versus Nick Saban, and it's like Nick Saban's record in the playoffs, in bowl games. Like, I think Harbaugh is like 1-6 in bowl games and 0-2 in the playoffs. And Saban's record is we don't even need to talk about. Like, he's just way more dominant than that. So, what do you think? What do you think? Does Michigan have a chance? Do they have an advantage, or is this?
If they were pre-scouting Alabama, then I think they might just have a chance. If they said if they had the same install for Alabama like they did us, the beat Georgia practice, and they still lost to us by 3 touchdowns. I think that this game makes me mad because this is like the first time, you and I always say, we'll give the SEC team the props, SEC supremacy. Screw that, man. I'm pissed off. Like, I'm just angry, like, because of, like, you talk about I don't want to keep jumping into the playoff criteria, but it's like the 4 best teams. If they are the 4 best teams, how are we still not in there if we're talking about the 4 best teams?
No,
and I understand we lost. Like, I do get that. It's more of a question of if it's the 4 best teams, why isn't Florida State?
Yeah,
why was Florida State left out? That's more my thing. But
you can make the argument that if you're using just the best teams criteria and you're not using the most deserving criteria, that Georgia should be in and Washington should be out.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of like the competition that they played.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can say the same thing about Michigan.
Yeah, you absolutely could say
perhaps Michigan doesn't deserve. Like, look at Michigan's strength of schedule; it's terrible.
Like I say, if you look at Michigan's strength of schedule and Florida State's strength of schedule, I'd give Florida State more props than Michigan outside of the beating Ohio State. Florida State beat LSU. Like, that's a quality.
Yeah, I mean, when I try to do this, I try to argue against the points that they're making. So, like, if they're making the point that but when they beat LSU, they had Jordan Travis. Now they don't. Okay, fine. So let's eliminate Florida State. Let's just say by virtue of your criteria, you eliminate Florida State. Then why was there not even a discussion about Washington and Michigan?
Yeah, it was just automatically in. Like, okay, undefeated conference champs, let them right in. Like,
it's like pick a criteria.
Yeah,
because you can't have one criteria for these teams and then a different criteria for these other teams.
Yeah,
and I do think that there's a certain element of, like, when you're going through this process of picking who are the best teams, well, where do you draw the line?
Yeah,
is a 5-loss team who you think is better than another 1-loss team because they're better? Like, where's the line where you start saying, no, this team earned it and this team did not earn it?
Yeah,
because they seem to conveniently forget that Alabama almost lost a game and really honestly should have lost to a terrible Auburn team.
That's what I'm saying
on the last week of the season.
like
come on.
that's so funny. They went 27-20. Like the score in Alabama's 2 games was 27-24, and they won 27-24 against Auburn and 27-24 against us.
Right.
So like I know that, and that was us playing some of our worst possible football at the worst possible time.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, like I'm not here to argue like, oh, we got screwed. Like in a way, like we did, but we didn't. You know what I mean? We screwed ourselves. Like you win, there's no conversation, right?
Right.
Like so, but it's the fact of like, oh, you're saying the committee's saying that we lost to a team that they now think is one of the top 4 teams in the country,
Right. Right.
and they think that that means that we should be not even playing in the playoff.
Right. 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 Right.
Like
Right.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like our first loss in 29 games
Yeah.
is to a now 4th-ranked Alabama team,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
considered a loss bad
Not
enough
only
to get us out of
not
there.
only are you out of the playoff, but you're 6th. They're saying
Yeah,
that
they
you're
dropped
worse than Florida State.
Yeah, a
Like,
team who
give me
they
a break.
said,
Like, what?
like
Pick a criteria.
it,
Either,
and the only reason Texas is there is because they want a Bama.
and that's why
Like,
Florida State isn't in there, or
yeah,
you're
and
Florida State. Like,
yeah,
how can you be worse than Florida State? And then that's I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. So let's get into another one. And I do want to say this. I don't know. Do you remember when's the last time we had 3 really good games in the playoff? There's usually like one good game, and then there's
one crap game.
one blowout, and then
Yep.
championship is possibly a good game. Usually it's kind of a blowout, or it's kind of like you guys have had a couple of really good ones, nail biters with Alabama.
Yep. We had our game with Oklahoma and Ohio State.
There've been some right, you had a good game, but then so last year I guess was an example. There were 2 good games. TCU, Michigan was a good game,
With
and
the
you guys in Ohio State was a really good game. Went down to the wire. I think this has a chance for all 3 games to actually be really good. Like you could have really good battle between Michigan and Alabama, a really good battle between Washington and Texas, and then whoever comes out of that championship game could be a really, really tight game too.
Yeah.
What do you think about Washington and Texas?
Washington and Texas. Let me go back to Alabama and Michigan real quick.
Okay.
I just think that Michigan. This is a chance that Michigan could just not show up again. However, I do think that I just said it earlier that Alabama's run defense. I mean, we did not play to our strengths against Alabama's run defense, but Michigan's run game is pretty unstoppable.
And their O-line, it starts up front.
Yeah, they can whip Alabama up front. Which, like we said, Alabama in many years has never had a trouble stopping the run and getting beat up front. So I think that Michigan does have it. Michigan's favored by 2 points in this game. I mean, number 1 team in the country, undefeated, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to come down to how does JJ McCarthy look, because you can't lean on the run the whole. It's not Big Ten football. Like Alabama's going to make plays on defense. You have to be able to spread the ball around. So it all comes out how McCarthy looks, and then
and can he make enough plays with his legs too? Because that's one thing. That's one place where Alabama has been vulnerable, and that's one thing that I don't think Carson Beck was really
he tried. He tried.
Yeah,
to be fair, he was getting his legs under him more into the back half of the year. He just didn't do it and get going enough in that game.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, the same formula works that we should have followed is going to work for Michigan's defense, and that is keep Miro in the pocket and cover Isaiah Bond. Don't let him get free. Alabama's run game is not insane. McClellan's not bad, 108 yards rushing, 6 TDs compared to Corum with 1,000 yards and 24 touchdowns. But I think you keep Miro in the pocket. You don't let guys break free, because that's what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
We were keeping Milroe in the pocket, but then we weren't getting to it.
Right.
So that's Michigan's big key for this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Bama's gonna Bama, and they could beat Michigan in a close one. Not that I want that to be. I don't know. I would like both teams to lose, but that's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like when it comes to the playoffs and the referees are there, somehow Bama's gonna get these calls. That's another thing. It was very apparent in our game against them. We were playing poorly, and then on top of it, Bama was getting every single call imaginable.
Yeah.
Dallas Turner might just take McCarthy out the game. We have to think about that aspect. Because he was trying to rip Carson Beck's head off with a face mask that wasn't called. Um, but as far as Texas Washington, I think that this is Penix's chance, man. National
Yeah.
stage,
Yeah.
top ranked team outside of they had to play Oregon twice. That was their true competition. Um, the matchup predictor at ESPN is giving Texas a massive edge at almost 70% chance. Ewers is healthy, supposedly.
Yeah.
Um, I
Lost a
don't
running
know.
back, but they've still got some weapons.
Yeah, I think this is more even sledding. I don't know. Like 68% is a lot. Like Washington, they had almost the scare in Corvallis. They had the scare against Washington State. They looked good at LA when they went and played USC, and then
But then when they had that game with Oregon, they really stepped up, and they rose to the occasion and got it done.
And Oregon was like working their way right back into that game, and Washington shut it down.
Yeah.
So
that was the thing that was the most impressive is that I thought I was watching it slip away.
Yeah.
And then to your point, like that's what they did. They just shut it down. They're like, nope, not today.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was big.
That was what are your thoughts here on Washington, Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I feel it's weird, but like I almost wish that these two teams weren't playing each other in the first round.
Yeah.
Because I would like to root for both of them.
Yeah,
and I would like to root against both Michigan and Alabama.
Exactly.
And then I'd like to see those two teams play in the championship. My rooting interest for this whole playoff is I want Washington to win the whole thing. I think it would be hilarious
Washington
if the Pac-12
or Texas for me
won a national championship in the last year of the Pac-12, and that a team that won it is exiting, or that Texas wins it. That's my second choice, because then it's a Big 12 team winning it, but it's an SEC team because they're going to be an SEC team next year. So it's like it'd just be funny to me to like these conferences that are dissolving are the ones that win the national championship, and not
I'm fine with that.
Not Alabama or Michigan. So, and we'll get once those first two games are taken care of, we'll come back and we'll do an episode where we talk about the national championship game, kind of preview that. But I want to get into some of these bowl games because there's a lot of really intriguing matchups coming up. There have not been many, if any at all, intriguing matchups thus far. But let's get right into it and pull this schedule up onto the stage. I did have to point out, though, it's been kind of crazy. You and I were talking about this before we came on. So far in this bowl season, we have had let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bowl games. 5 of the losers are 6 and 7 now after losing those bowl games. So we had 500 teams that are no longer 500 teams after their bowl games, and then we have another one that is still 500, a 6th team that lost to fall to 500 in the Celebration Bowl. Florida A&M beat Howard. Howard is now 6 and 6, and that's a FCS school.
Yep.
But then we have another one coming up tonight where South Florida and Syracuse. The loser of that one is going to be 6 and 7 because they're both 6 and 6. And then tomorrow we have the same thing with Georgia Tech and UCF. They're both 6 and 6. So the loser of that one is going to be under 500. We got too many bowl games. We have too many teams in bowl games. And I would much rather see us expand the playoff and get to the point where we aren't doing all this nonsense. Like everybody likes to see games. Games are fun. It adds a little extra spice to the holidays. It juices things up. But I don't want to see two teams that are like half-ass playing to see if they can be 500 or one game over or one game under 500.
It's some free swag.
Nobody cares. I'd much rather see the number 16 team in the country play against the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, dude. If I'm like,
give me a 16-team playoff.
If I'm like one of these teams that are like, that's playing in like these bowl games, like up and around Christmas, and it's like, like you said, you're a 6 and something team. It's like, dang, man, I gotta delay my Christmas break to go to for example, to go to Montgomery, Alabama,
right,
to play the Camellia Bowl, or to go to Fort Worth, Texas, or Birmingham, Alabama. Like at least some of these bowl games are like in the Bahamas or like LA.
So let's look at some of these.
You know what I mean? Or like New Orleans is like a good time. Like you go after the game, but like Like, it's like I'm taking the time out of my Christmas break.
Right.
You know, we're not playing for a national championship. We're not even playing in a good bowl game. We're gonna go
Yeah,
to
so look,
Boise,
South
Idaho to
Florida.
play in the Idaho Potato Bowl. Like,
Right. So
what?
South Florida and Syracuse, they're playing in Boca Raton. I would not mind being in the
Hey,
Miami
if you're going
area.
to Florida, like,
That's not
it's
bad. Well,
yeah,
that's not far from
yeah,
that's like an hour north of Miami. So
yeah.
like you're right there, or maybe 45 minutes north of Miami. So that's great. Tampa, still not bad. UCF and Georgia Tech. The crazy thing is though, you have South Florida playing in the one in Boca Raton, which is like a home game for them. And then you
Yeah.
have Central Florida playing in Tampa, which is damn near a home game for them. So like it's not even they're not even really traveling.
Traveling.
But yeah, Birmingham, Montgomery,
Yeah.
Fort Worth,
Boise,
like
Idaho.
going to Dallas Fort Worth is not great. Boise,
There's
Mobile,
3
Alabama, like
see, there's
really?
3 bowl games out in the state of Alabama.
Yeah. And then you get Vegas and Honolulu. Now,
Or
shout out to
Hawaii.
Utah Western for going to Vegas, but damn,
Yeah.
San Jose State and Coastal Carolina get to go to Honolulu.
Yeah, that's not
Let's go.
yeah,
I'll take a break to go there. What is
yeah, right?
those are on Christmas Day, or what day is that?
No, there's a break for Christmas. It's like the day 2 days before Christmas, and they pick up after Christmas.
Oh, okay. Those are all on
But this is
Saturdays.
still, like,
Those
cutting
are on the
into your
25th.
Christmas break. You gotta, like now, I
Yeah.
will say this, there is a little bit of something to practicing after classes are done.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
there is because I've done it. Like, there is, like, a thing to, like, okay, we could just be, obviously, these guys play football, like, football players, and not have to worry about class, like, or you're with your guys, people maybe left campus. Like, there is an aspect to that is pretty cool, but it
Mhm.
is also, like, you have to go to Boise, Idaho to play your game. Like, so there's some
Right.
gives and takes.
But there's also, the other thing is too, like for the red shirt guys, like if you've gotten your 4 games in, you can still play in this bowl game
Mhm.
because without losing your red shirt. So you'll
Yeah,
still have 4 years of eligibility after this,
that's a great point.
so that there's that, and you get to get those guys into those practices, and some of the early enrollees
Mhm.
get to get a little taste of it. They may not be participating, but they
Yeah.
get to be around that atmosphere. So it's good, from that standpoint. And I get it, but I would much rather some of these things, like, okay, if we could just chop off the bottom 8 games that have all these 6-6, 5-7, teams, and instead have those 8 games be elevated to playoff games,
Mhm.
then, like, gosh, it's so much more fun for a fan to watch, right?
Yeah.
Um, then we
Let's
go,
get some
we got
better let's get some
Detroit,
better bowl
Michigan,
games.
another Dallas game,
Yeah.
Phoenix. Like, I mean, not terrible places to go, but like not amazing either. Annapolis, Maryland, Charlotte, North Carolina, San Diego, Houston, Boston. That's interesting. So they're going to play a home game,
In
basically. Or they're
Fenway.
playing at Fenway Park. Okay, they're
Yep.
playing at Fenway,
Yeah.
but it's Boston College again. Like, why are we doing this? Why are you
Yeah.
having a team play in their backyard?
Yeah,
Like,
literally.
it kind of defeats the purpose, right? Like,
Even Rutgers is playing at Yankee Stadium.
because do you
Like
remember I told you about how, like, back in the day in the 80s, LSU would finish tied with like Auburn or Alabama for first
mhm.
place in the SEC,
Yeah.
and they would give the other team, even though we beat them head to head, like we
Yeah.
would beat Auburn head to head, and we'd both be tied with 1 loss and a tie, or 1 loss or something like that. We'd be tied at the top of the SEC standings, but we had the head to head tiebreaker because we had
Yeah.
beaten them head to head in the regular season. They would send them to the Sugar Bowl instead of us because they didn't want the LSU fans to just go make a day trip and then go back home.
They
They
wanted
wanted
people to
to
travel and
they wanted to have people
hotels
spend
and
3 or 4 days and have
yeah,
that whole,
for the economy
experience.
of the area.
Well, what the hell are they doing now?
Yeah, they got
They're
Rutgers
they got
going to the Bronx. They got Rutgers taking a bus trip to
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 the
Fe
Bronx.
to
They
to
have
the
Boston
Bronx.
College playing in Fenway. They have South Florida playing in Boca Raton. They have Central
Look,
Florida playing in Tampa. Like, what are you doing?
it's like one team has to travel across the country and one team has to take a bus 30
Right.
minutes down the block.
Right,
Like
exactly. Yeah,
like
Miami goes to New York, goes to the Bronx, but so does Rutgers. SMU has to travel all the way to Boston, but so does
There's
Boston
Boston
College. Like,
College.
they just fall out of bed and start playing a football game.
Yeah, it's
Um,
time to go to our bowl game. Let's get on the bus, everybody.
so all right, so Orlando, this one's good. You got NC State and K State. All right, that's a good one there, and then San Antonio, Texas. Arizona and Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't have to travel too far, but they're traveling,
Yeah.
a decent amount. Kentucky and Clemson, again, Jacksonville. Both of those teams get to travel, go to a cool place. Oregon State, Notre Dame, El Paso, Texas. That's a decent trip for both of those schools. I don't know how fun El Paso is, but hey, look, Notre Dame and Oregon State, you got to win more games if you want a better bowl game. And then you get Memphis and Iowa State playing in Memphis. So another one that doesn't have to, in the Liberty Bowl, another team that doesn't have to travel at all.
Well,
Missouri, Ohio State, and Arlington. That's not too far from
a lot of games in Texas and
Missouri.
Florida.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of
well,
games
I mean,
Texas
it's
and
only
Florida.
natural that you're going to have, I think it's kind of cool that they're having the game at Fenway.
That is
because
cool.
The weather is, I mean, we could have a bowl game in the snow.
And it's like if you're going to play somewhere cold like that, you might as well be somewhere cool.
Yeah, somewhere awesome. Like, oh, cool, it's Fenway Park or the Blue Field in Boise. That's
and what is it?
Boise is a cool place too.
Even the teams that are coming up to Annapolis, like Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium is actually a sick stadium. I've been there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That is it's going to be cold. But that's a dope stadium to play.
I retract my slander of that game. That's actually you make a good point.
Yeah, Navy Marine Corps Stadium is sick. But as far as like these matchups, I feel like the matchups, like we get like some like early, like honestly, JMU is playing Air Force, not a bad game. And then it gets like, I feel like the games actually start getting good around December 27th. If we want to talk about those matchups kind of going forward, like you have like, if you go to December 27th, you have like Texas A&M, Oklahoma State. That should be ugly, but kind of funny game for us to watch. You get Louisville, USC.
Yeah,
like those are games.
That's a good one.
Like it's like 27th. What are your thoughts about these games? Or you
Texas A&M, Oklahoma State. Which Oklahoma State team shows up?
Yeah, that's true.
Is it the team that lost 45-3 to Central Florida, or is it the team that played in the Big 12 championship game after beating Oklahoma? Like, who knows?
Yeah,
who knows? Who knows what we're getting?
Yeah, who knows? And then Rutgers, Miami. That could be a decent game.
Yeah.
And then I feel like, I think like the 27th on is when stuff starts to pick up. Like
Arizona, Oklahoma is kind of interesting too.
That is an interesting
because
game.
No Dylan Gabriel. It's like he already transferred to Oregon.
Yeah, that's facts.
And so like, and then Arizona's got a good quarterback. So like that one could be I can't pronounce his last name, but it's that's going to be. I think Arizona has a chance to
somebody talking
really put it on them. What's that?
Oh. My ESPN is deciding to play ads for
me. Okay. Clemson, Kentucky's kind of interesting because you have, this is a chance for Dabo Swinney to, say what you want to say about this team, but like if Clemson has a really bad down year and they end up 9-4, that's not that bad.
Considering how they started off the year and how people like me were downplaying them. Like,
and they happened to catch a down year when Florida State had a really good year.
Yeah.
Duke had a really good year. They had some other teams in their conference, and then their out of conference schedule was tough enough.
Duke, Ryder going to Notre Dame. We talked about him. We talked about him going to Notre Dame. Those transfer guys, and then I feel like Arizona, Oklahoma, Clemson, Kentucky, Oregon State, Notre Dame. I feel like if it Hartman and I mean, Estime is a dog, man. I feel like he's been very like not flown under the radar, but has not gotten enough credit. Do that. I feel like he's going to be like he's only. I think he's only a freshman or sophomore. But I think that like his last year's in Notre Dame. He's a junior actually, but I don't know. But I feel like if he sticks around, he could be a Heisman look. Because I feel like he wasn't getting the hype he needed to go to the draft this year. So we'll see.
No, for sure. Well, and it's such a quarterback and receiver heavy draft too.
Yeah.
That even being a highly rated running back, you're still going to be probably up against it to get drafted in the back end of the first round
and
or mid second round.
Dude, let's talk this Mizzou Ohio State. I feel like this is going to be one of the best like non-playoff games.
It's going to be crazy because
I think this game's going to be great.
A decent defense in Missouri against a much better defense in Ohio State, but an elite offense, I think, in Missouri,
which is crazy that we're saying this.
And an offense that I don't know what to expect with Ohio State. I think it's a really good matchup, and this is one of those ones we've talked about it before, where routinely you get this it's SEC number 9 again.
Yeah.
This is one where it's like, all right, let's see Big 10 versus Alabama, Michigan, and then this game. Let's see
Big
Big
10
10 versus
runner-up,
SEC,
and then SEC East runner-up.
right?
Like this is like this is like honestly Mizzou is like this is.
Well, you have a couple of them here in a row, right? So
Yeah.
you have Missouri, Ohio State, then you have Ole Miss, Penn State, and then Auburn and Maryland. Those are like 3 very evenly matched in terms of like
Agreed.
where those teams are in their respective conferences and what it actually means for any kind of like bowl record type of situation if you want bragging rights as a conference. And even with that, I would still say screw Alabama, go Big Blue, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would love to watch. Could you imagine Auburn falling victim to another Tagovailoa? Just like just to his brother coming in there with Maryland and just clowning Auburn.
Yeah,
I think the 2 best games, obviously outside of ours, is Ole Miss, Penn State, and Mizzou, Ohio State. I think honestly, that like out without my Kyle McCord, probably without Marvin Harrison, I think that this Mizzou team might just wax Ohio State, like legitimately.
Yeah.
But I think there's a good chance that this might not, Mizzou's favored by 1 point, so that says enough.
Yep.
And then Ole Miss, Penn State, I think that Penn State's favored by 4. We have to see who's playing this game for Ole Miss.
Yeah.
This is the Peach Bowl in Mercedes-Benz.
Well, Judkins is going to play.
Exactly.
And that's one thing that you got to stop that kid already. That's
and that's asking a lot already.
I'd be surprised if Jackson Dart doesn't play.
Yeah.
And that's so you got to contend with that. And
you got Drew Aller, and all the running backs for Penn State are still going to be there.
Yep.
This is like a game where like enough people are definitely still like enough of the big weapons for both teams are still participating to where like this is probably going to be a very evenly matched.
Right. So we talked about Auburn, Maryland, Georgia, Florida State. Let's get into it, man. We got our 2 games on the screen right now. So Georgia, Florida State. There's a whole bunch of people not playing for both schools.
Well, I'll tell you, who's playing is listen. We got our starting quarterback, which is more than most teams at this point can say. Like Carson Beck is staying. That's why we'll talk about. That's why Rayola is not committed. But I mean, people are. I feel like the Alabama playoff stands are just begging us to beat the brakes off of Florida State.
Yeah.
But then if we beat the brakes off of Florida State, then we're just sitting there like woohoo, whatever. Like I guess we're just still out of the playoffs.
So my personal take is I think this is a really dangerous spot for you guys.
I agree, because if we get upset, then we're screwed. Like
because if you win, it's kind of like if you go play like a lower classification team or something like that. Like if you win, it's just going to be like everybody says, see, we told you all Florida State didn't deserve to be in the playoffs.
It's going to give them ammo to say that.
It doesn't mean anything. It's not going to help you guys. It's not going to make you guys look good. It will not, and so like from a motivation standpoint, it's almost like you're pushing against a paper obstacle, like it's just going to, you're waiting to just fall through it. On the flip side of that, Florida State has a ton to play for.
Yeah, everything to play for.
This is not a like half the team is missing from Georgia. This is a legit test for this Florida State team.
Most guys are playing in this game, man.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So Florida State actually has a statement to make in this game. And that, to me, again, it's like you don't have a statement to make, really. You're more the hunted than the hunter.
Which is
And Florida State is coming for a pelt.
Yep.
And I think they have a legitimate gripe. Let's just say this. Okay, let's say Alabama beats Michigan, and then Texas beats Washington, and then Texas beats Alabama again.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgia and Florida State, just hypothetically, Florida State beats Georgia by 2 touchdowns.
Oh, Jesus.
How can you make the argument that the lone remaining undefeated team and their best win is the same as Alabama's best win, and then Texas' best win is a win against Alabama twice?
Yeah.
how can you say that like I think there's a legitimate if they gave USC a national championship through the media in 2003, how can you say that Florida State doesn't deserve some on paper
Yeah.
media
If
awarded
no,
national
you're right.
championship of
Or even
sorts?
if Alabama loses off the jump, like if Alabama loses this a semifinal game
No, if they lose,
and
yeah, if they
Florida
lose to
State wins
Michigan
this
and then
game,
right.
then it's like
Yeah, yeah.
I hate talking Florida State winning this game
I know.
because it's like I hope
That's
that like
actually a better scenario though. If Alabama loses to Michigan and then Texas goes and boat races Michigan, then it's like, well, we didn't really learn anything. We just
no,
learned that Alabama is because they lost to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma wasn't really that good. Like, shit, maybe Florida State was the best team in the country. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and
no,
if they get that other quarterback to actually play up to his potential with
yeah,
4 weeks to prepare for this bowl game,
and still great
because
receivers and good
yes,
defense. Like,
because the thing is, I don't know. I know Jared Verse declared for the draft, but I don't know if he's said that he's going to opt out of the bowl game or not. That's the only thing I'm not sure of.
yeah,
But what I was getting at is you have like this whole question about the quarterback position is all because the backup was concussed and was not available to play against Louisville.
which he
And
would have
then
been
they
available
still
to play in
beat
the playoff.
right, but he would have been
Yeah,
playing in this game,
yeah.
and they still beat a very good Louisville
And
team
people keep undercutting Louisville to make the
without
point about
him.
Florida State.
Like, come
That's
on, y'all.
but people keep undercutting like so many people are like, oh, Louisville's trash. Like they were number 10 in the country, dude. They
Right.
beat Notre Dame.
They beat Notre Dame after
Like,
Notre Dame had played Ohio State to the
yeah,
wire
yeah,
and
like
only lost because they had like 10 people on the field or whatever it was.
yeah,
You know, it's like if they had 11 guys on the field on defense, they might have stopped Ohio
yeah,
State
right.
at the end of the game.
All right.
All
Wrap
right,
it up
so
with LSU, Wisconsin.
yeah, LSU was well. We got a couple more,
Oh, we got a
but yeah.
couple
So
more. Oh, my bad.
Wisconsin LSU, top of the screen here. So Jaden Daniels is not playing. I don't mind that at
Steal
all.
the
I
draft. Oh.
totally understand it. And LSU, I think, is still going to be fine at the quarterback position. Malik Neighbors is playing in this game. He said he wants to set the all-time record, and he's right there, right on the cusp of it. So, he's sitting there. He comes into this game with 86 catches for 15, 46, and 14 touchdowns. So he's trying to set a record, and LSU is favored by 10 points. They were favored by like 2 touchdowns, and then it dropped to 8.5 when Daniels opted out, and now it has crept back up to 10 points. So the heavy money is on LSU, and they keep moving the line away from LSU to try to entice more Wisconsin money. Luke Fickell, good coach, and
Yep.
I don't underestimate his ability to come up with a game plan. The question is going to be, what does LSU's defense look like, and can a non-Jaden Daniels offense keep up with a track meet if LSU's defense is giving up touchdowns every other possession like they have most of the season? We'll see. I tend to think that there's going to be enough motivation on this roster to go out there and win it, despite Jaden Daniels not being on the field. Liberty, Oregon, and
Oregon boat race.
Huh?
Oregon, or I think it's either Oregon boat race or Liberty sneaks them because Oregon's gonna have so many guys ready for the draft that like Liberty's gonna have like pretty much their whole team available.
Yeah,
and, like Liberty could sneak them. Those are the two things that I think could happen. It's either boat race or like a Liberty's.
There's some heavy letdown potential for Oregon too, because even if those guys are playing, it's just like, really, bro, like what are we here
Liberty?
for?
We went from contending for a natty to playing Liberty
Right
in the Fiesta Bowl.
And not for nothing, Florida State and Liberty could be the final 2 remaining undefeated teams, and neither of them was invited to the playoff.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. And if Liberty does like somehow beat Oregon by like 2 touchdowns or something like that, then it brings a whole lot of other stuff into question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, if Liberty like trounces Oregon, then we have a whole other conversation.
Right. What's going on, y'all? Iowa, Tennessee. I think this is actually a really cool matchup. I'm still disappointed. it wouldn't have meant as much because Jaden Daniels isn't playing, but I really wanted LSU Iowa.
Oh, I
I just
know.
wanted it. Wanted it so bad. Like the best defense, the guaranteed under versus the
Yes.
guaranteed over,
Yep.
and then something's got to give, right?
Yeah, the
Something's got to
worst
give.
offense versus the worst defense, and the best defense versus the worst offense. I mean, the best
That's right.
offense.
That's
Like,
right. That would have been epic. But Iowa Tennessee is what we get instead. And then you saw the last two games on that
mhm,
schedule are the New Year's night games of Alabama, Michigan, and Texas versus Washington. So we got a lot to look forward to. I hope y'all enjoy watching all the bowl games. Enjoy the time with your family and friends over the holidays, and we are looking forward to that. We've got a couple of other episodes coming up as we get into the first part of the year. We're going to have an episode where we go over the schedules for the upcoming season for the SEC now that Oklahoma and Texas have joined and the divisions are no more. There's no more
mhm.
East and West. We're going to go through those schedules. Look for that one coming up. And then we're also going to have a recruiting special coming up as well, where we're going to go over what LSU and Georgia did in recruiting and through the transfer portal. And we'll get into a little bit of some of the other SEC teams, but we're going to mostly focus on LSU and Georgia. So don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. Share this thing with all your family and friends who are either LSU or Georgia fans, or just SEC fans, or hell, just college football fans,
Yeah,
college
exactly.
sports fans, whatever. We are here for you. We enjoy this, and we hope you enjoy watching us enjoy it. And we will holler back at you guys again later. I am Chad. He is Tyler. This is the South End Zone. We're out. See y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.